Hello and welcome back to our channel. Fairmont Crest is under mounting pressure as buried truths, family conflict, and a shocking public moment collide all at once. Next week on Beyond the Gates, Jacob takes drastic steps to prove himself, Randy delivers a stern warning to Lynette, and in a stunning moment, Anita stumbles in public at the country club while facing the turmoil Leslie has unleashed. Here is the promo preview for the week of February 16th to 20th, 2026. Key points to remember: Bill turns to Joey for help while unknowingly chasing the wrong lead. Jacob clashes with his father and prepares for a risky separation. Anita's help becomes public at the golf club. Bill has never liked having to call and ask for anything, especially when he is the kind of man used to giving orders rather than seeking favors. But this time, desperation makes pride feel like a luxury. He stands in a room that still carries Haley's perfume and stares at the bruise on his wife's cheek like an exclamation mark slammed straight into his honor. Into the role of husband he has tried to wear like fresh armor to cover a long history of old mistakes. Bill doesn't just see Haley hurt. He sees himself exposed, mocked, dragged back into the whirlpool of guilt that Donnie once witnessed more clearly than anyone. He had convinced himself that if he protected Haley well enough, if he proved he could value the family he has now, then the past with Donnie would automatically be erased. But that bruise paired with the story of a robbery and the missing items makes every comforting lie collapse. He needs someone to hunt, a target to pour his rage into, a tangible culprit who can turn shame into action. So he calls Joey. Not because he believes Joey is good, but because Joey is the kind of man who can make the truth surface through dirty pathways Bill refuses to touch directly. Making the call is an admission that Bill is willing to step into the shadows, willing to place himself in debt, as long as he can drag his image out of the mud. When Joey asks in a mocking tone about the Dupree family, Bill reflexively brushes it off. As if saying this has nothing to do with the Duprees is enough to separate him from every power war circling Fairmont Crest. Yet that very dismissal reveals something more poisonous. Bill is fighting for his new family, and in that fight he is willing to use any tool available, even a tool named Joey Armstrong. He doesn't know that the man who hit Haley never existed. He doesn't know that the bruise is a coldly calculated stage scene designed to lock him into a script written not by Haley, and certainly not by him, but by Lynette. Lynette isn't the kind of woman who acts on a simple burst of jealousy. She does everything like a card game. Place the wager, read the reaction, then raise the stakes the moment she sees the other side take the bait. Her original goal is clear and blunt: sever the invisible thread between Bill and Donnie. Because Lynette understands that Bill's old romances don't die, they only hibernate, and Donnie is the one woman who makes Bill both crave and fear at the same time. If Bill still remembers Donnie, still aches over Donnie, then Haley will always be nothing more than a temporary life raft, and Lynette will never be able to control the direction of the boat. So she needs a shock strong enough to force Bill to turn his face away from Donnie, to shut his eyes to every signal that calls him back to the past, and to pour his protective instinct entirely into Haley. The bruise is the perfect story. It activates sympathy, triggers possessiveness, and gives Bill the chance to cast himself as the hero. But the danger of the game lies here. Once you introduce violence into the narrative, even fake violence, it can give birth to real violence. Lynette accepts that risk because she believes she can control every link in the chain. She is even willing to let Haley be caught in the fallout to a carefully measured degree, pitiful enough to soften Bill, frightened enough to make Haley cling to him, but not so severe that Haley fights back. It's a refined kind of control, and also a kind of control so confident it becomes blind. And in that blindness, Lynette fails to notice another pair of eyes tracking the pieces as they fall: Randy. Randy isn't accidentally eavesdropping. The word accidental is just what people say to hide the fact that they chose to listen. He has watched Lynette slip into Haley's life like a nameless shadow, has noticed how she always knows too much, interferes at exactly the right moment, and retreats at exactly the right time. Randy's history with Lynette is like an old scar being stretched. He doesn't want to touch it, but it still itches. Still reminds him that Lynette has always loved turning other people into puppets. So when Bill calls Joey, Randy doesn't just hear a phone call. He hears a door opening into a room he once had been locked inside. If Joey helps Bill, then Joey will own a new piece of debt to chain Bill to him. And if Joey starts digging, Lynette's glossy paint will peel. Randy understands the power game. The winner isn't the person who has the truth, but the person who knows when to release it in the way that hurts the most. That's why he stays quiet, not because he's innocent, but because he is calculating. He is weighing whether to break Lynette's table right now, or wait until she places a bigger bet so her fall will be more painful. At the same time, Randy understands something more dangerous. The more desperate Bill becomes, the more he will choose shortcuts, and in Joey's world, shortcuts are usually paved with blood, threats, and deals you can never walk back. Bill is turning himself into prey with the force of his own anger. Elsewhere, Jacob is walking a line every cop understands, the line between duty and personal obsession. The police station is a place where discipline is kept through glances and habits, yet the argument between Jacob and Elon explodes like a gunshot. Jacob isn't demanding praise. He knows cheap praise doesn't save anyone in a dangerous case. He is demanding respect, because respect is the one thing that proves he is no longer the son who needs permission, no longer the green kid standing among men accustomed to power. But the word respect comes out too loud, not only turning every head in the building, but making Jacob realize he has exposed his emotions. And exposing emotion in a covert investigation is like exposing your throat to a blade. From a father's perspective, Elon doesn't only fear danger, he fears Jacob's loss of control. The deeper Jacob dives, the more Elon feels he can no longer reach his son, no longer guide him, no longer force him. And beneath that fear sits a selfish edge. Elon is afraid Jacob will become a version he cannot understand, a man who does not need his approval. That fear of being pushed aside makes Ellen's warning taste more like authority than love, and it makes Jacob burn hotter. An argument in a police station isn't just embarrassing, it's a sign Jacob is being squeezed to the limit. Jacob's covert case is not just a file. It is a pipeline, an underground current connecting incidents that seem separate on the surface. Haley's robbed property, a bruise with no witness, money flowing into unnamed pockets, shadowy figures moving through Joey's casino. Jacob goes undercover because he can no longer work the ordinary way. He needs to disappear from both enemies and allies, because in cases like this, the informant is sometimes the person standing right beside you. What Jacob is chasing may begin with something small: a watch, a piece of jewelry, a fingerprint, but it leads to a network where Joey is only one major link. Jacob doesn't tell Elon, not because he lacks trust, but because he suspects that even those too close might get pulled in. And there is another suspicion that hurts more. If Elon knows more than he has admitted, then Jacob's fight isn't only against the underworld, it's against silence inside his own family. That thought makes Jacob both furious and cold. Furious because he feels underestimated, cold because he realizes respect doesn't come from blood, but from whether you dare to go all the way, even if it means stepping past the people you love. Then Jacob moves out. That announcement isn't a sudden impulse, it is a knife cutting his life in two. He tells Naomi the way a soldier speaks to the one left behind, short, final, leaving no room for negotiation. Naomi hears it and immediately senses the truth. Jacob isn't just leaving home, he is leaving safety, leaving the life they tried to build, stepping into darkness where everything has a price. Naomi is a lawyer, trained to read motive, so she sees two possibilities existing at once. Jacob is doing this to protect her, or Jacob is doing this because he has begun to suspect she is hiding something. Both possibilities make Naomi choke because she truly is hiding something that could change the way Jacob sees her. The BRCA gene issue. Naomi doesn't stay silent out of simple dishonesty. It is delay wrapped in fear. She is afraid telling him will fracture his focus at the exact moment he is charging into danger. She is afraid it will turn her into a burden in his eyes while Jacob is trying to prove he deserves respect. But that silence is also a kind of betrayal, because it steals Jacob's right to know, his right to choose how he loves her. Naomi tells herself she is protecting him, yet the more she repeats that lie, the more she feels like the other women of Fairmont Crest holding secrets like weapons, waiting for the right moment to draw them. And when Jacob leaves, Naomi realizes the secret is no longer something she controls. It becomes something that controls her, staining every decision with guilt. While Jacob and Naomi stand at the edge of a cold separation, Bill's world tightens further. Bill thinks he is hunting the man who attacked his wife, but in reality he is chasing a shadow Lynette painted for him. If Bill never finds the real culprit, his rage will circle back and bite him. It will turn him into a controlling husband who demands Haley's every move under the banner of protection. It will turn him into Joey's debtor, because every time Joey helps, Bill loses another piece of freedom. And it will make Lynette even more certain she can keep manipulating the situation, because when a man is driven by guilt, he will do anything to feel like he is right. Lynette has struck exactly that weak spot. If this plan succeeds, she won't stop. She will manufacture new threats so Bill stays permanently alert, permanently in need of her as an advisor, permanently viewing Haley as something to guard rather than an equal human being. That is how Lynette turns love into a prison and turns Bill into the warden without him even realizing he is the one being caged. Randy remains on the edge like someone who has seen the ending but hasn't decided whether to speed it up. He warns Lynette with words that smell like revenge. If he has to pay a price, then Lynette and Haley will pay too. It isn't only a threat, it is a confession that Randy is willing to drag the whole system down if he is cornered. He doesn't want to bring up the past with Lynette, but the past is exactly what makes him understand how dangerous she is. If Randy truly overheard Bill's call to Joey, then he's holding information that could detonate everything Bill is begging Joey. Joey is getting involved. And the robbery may be nothing but theater. Randy can use that to blackmail Lynette, or he can let Lynette walk deeper into her own trap. Worse still, Randy can become an accidental bridge between Jacob's case and Joey's world. Once Jacob traces the pipeline, Randy will no longer be an outsider. He will be pulled in as a witness, an accomplice, or prey. Meanwhile, Donnie and Nicole are caught in a different kind of tension, subtler, but just as sharp as a thin blade. Donnie wants to share intimate details not only out of curiosity or impulsiveness. Deep down, she is searching for reassurance that she is still loved, still desirable, still allowed to own happiness after all the hurt and betrayal. She wants Nicole to answer like a real sister, because if Nicole can speak about private life in a normal way, Donnie will feel less isolated in her hunger to be seen. But Nicole refuses for reasons beyond family complications. That refusal carries a fear that if they dig into intimacy, they will touch cracks the Dupree family has always tried to cover. Nicole may be clinging to control for her own survival, afraid that once she opens the door to sharing, every other secret will spill out to secrets about loyalty, compromises, and the things she stayed quiet about to keep order. Donnie feels rejected as if her pride has been slapped, and her anger may twist into reckless decisions, a way of proving she does not need anyone's permission to live. Each of them is fighting loneliness in her own way, and their collision makes the family colder. And then there is Anita. Her stumble in public isn't only a health scare, it is a door of power kicked open in front of the entire community. Leslie appears at the luncheon like a knife hidden beneath the tablecloth. If Leslie's sabotage were merely a social mishap, it would not land at such a sensitive point, and it would not happen under the hungry eyes of country club gossip. Leslie understands something very well. Power in Fairmont Crest doesn't live only in documents or money, it lives in image. The moment people see Anita weaken, they start asking who will replace her, who will lead, who will hold the board. Leslie benefits because chaos always creates opportunity for someone skilled at manipulating perception. She can wait for the right moment to plant rumors, push Vernon into defense, and make the younger generation begin to fight for position. Anita's weakness, temporary or lasting, creates a vacuum, and power vacuums always attract dark ambition. When Vernon moves to steady Anita, it isn't only a husband's reflex. It is the reflex of someone protecting a throne from being seen as unstable. Sometimes all it takes is one fall for everyone to realize the throne is no longer solid. All these threads build, falling into Joey's debt through anger and guilt, Lynette manipulating through staged violence, Randy listening and feeding a need for retaliation, Jacob going undercover and leaving Naomi just as Naomi hides the BRCA gene truth, Donnie craving validation while Nicole builds walls, Anita collapsing in public while Leslie stands nearby like someone who has been waiting braid together into a web where no one is completely innocent and no one is completely safe. Every decision made for protection can become a knife. Every secret kept to keep the peace can become tinder. And the most frightening part is that they all believe they are doing what is right in their own way, while in truth they are shoving one another toward a corner where negativity is no longer a choice, it is survival instinct. Once Joey begins to help, once Jacob begins to disappear, once Leslie begins to speak at exactly the right time, and once Lynette realizes her game could be flipped, Fairmont Crest stops being a place where people simply live in luxury. It becomes a battlefield where respect, love, and power must be paid for with twisted truth. And once that price is demanded, it won't stop at a bruise or a stumble.